Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back into Untitled. So excited to have you here today. Kendall Valenzuela, Cooterdoodle, aka Cooterdoodle to you guys, Amanda to me, just professionally, of course, but you guys can't call her that. We're excited. We're excited to be back. We've got a great show lined up, Amanda. We're in a dynasty startup league together. So, please refrain from trash talking me like while we're in this podcast. I would really appreciate it. But that's been fun so far. How you doing?
Oh, I'm at the end of the turn, so I'm terrified. I wait like a day for my pick, but it's okay. Dynasty startups are scary. Don't send me trade offers. I'm terrified to accept them, okay?
Can I tell you, you want to hear a trade offer that our producer Matt Swing sent me yesterday that was just egregious. So I wanted to trade up one spot to get Ladd McConkey, wanted a first round pick. How horrible. I think we should boo him. Boo.
Boo to Matt, but also you got to know when people want it. When you're desperate, that's when you can take advantage. So I do respect it.
I can't lie to him. Like there was a brief moment where I was like, maybe. And then it was like, no, I can't do this. But it's been fun though. It is stressful though. Cause I've got the 101. Are you at the 11 or 12th pick?
I think I'm like 10. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That stinks because we have to I like being in the middle, especially with dynasty startup drafts. If like the 101 was cool to get Josh Allen. And then ever since then, Amanda, it hasn't been fun. I haven't had a good time.
It's terrifying. We'll talk about it again. We'll crash out once we're done.
We'll get into it. All right. As everyone knows, we've got 4 quarters here and an overtime that if we get to it, Amanda, could be a little bit unhinged today. So that one should be fun. But of course, we have to start in the first quarter here with Did You Hear? Presented by Bud Light. All right. Did You Hear? Presented by Bud Light. Coming up, we got to talk. Okay. So OTAs, and just for anyone that doesn't know, OTAs have started and they are optional. Amanda, let me just say that they are, they can be somewhat optional for players. So I just want to throw that out there before we start with, did you hear that James Cook did not show up to OTAs? Is this worrying you? This one's it's a little bit interesting to me because we know he's in the contract situation. He's asked for some more money, a new contract coming off a big season last year. So what do you think about him not showing up to OTAs?
Look, I think the O stands for optional, like you said, right? The problem here, and I think it always goes back to the narrative of players and how they get paid. He had a phenomenal 2024 season. He had over 1,000 yards, 16 touchdowns. And so he wants to get paid, right? He's on the final year of his rookie contract. The Bills have extended multiple players from that 2022 draft class, and he wants to get paid. And Kendall, the thing that I'm iffy about, I'm all for him missing OTAs and trying to negotiate, but he posted on Instagram or pinned a post on Instagram that said he wanted somewhere around $15 million a year, which would make him like a top 3 or 4 paid running back. That's where I'm like, ooh, is this the art of the deal? Are you trying to negotiate and you expect less? So you're going for the high number. I don't know that he deserves to be a top 3, top 4 paid back, but he does deserve a better contract. So that's kind of where I fall. Like, make the negotiations happen, do what you need to do. But is he asking for a little too much? I don't know. That's where I'm in the middle there.
I'm with you because I agree, but he's been so vocal about wanting around 15 million a year. I mean, he came out and started saying that in February. So this has been kind of a long time coming, and we kind of knew, looking ahead to the 2025 season, that this might be something that impacts the Buffalo Bills. I remember going into the NFL draft, I think I wrote an article saying, hey, this is probably unlikely, but when we look at the history of just the Buffalo Bills, they don't usually give second contracts to those running backs. And so I just, was thinking maybe if they go into the draft, they get another rookie running back, that maybe we look at this and say, okay, what are they going to do with James Cook? But I agree with you that he had such a phenomenal season last year. And he was one of the regression candidates, I believe we talked about last week, or that Dwayne McFarland wrote about at fantasylife.com. But I mean, he averaged 13.9 fantasy points per game in 2023, 16.7 and finished as the RB8 in 2024. He had this, he had this role that we looked at and we said, wow, we love the utilization profile. Everything was there, but we can probably expect a little bit of regression because some of the numbers are just too good to be able to keep up. That's the other part, Amanda, where I'm always on the side of the players. I want to say, hey, get your money when you can, because you just never know when an injury happens, when just something bad could happen. So I kind of understand where he's coming from, but I agree with you, like 15 million, that's a lot. That's a lot of money to put him. That puts him not near Saquon, but it's in the range of like Saquon CMC level kind of play.
Right. And look, touchdown wise, because I don't want to like dog James Cook. He had a great year. But he was 16th in yards, right around 1,000. He was 19th in attempts. So they were using him, but like not as much as some of these other guys at the top. But he was tied first for touchdowns with Derrick Henry and Jahmyr Gibbs. So when you look at it from that perspective and you look at what the Bills did, granted, they obviously have Josh Allen who's going to run the ball and he's going to score sometimes too with his feet. But he is a like huge piece of this offense. I guess the question here is, how does it play in as far as if they pay him, is he going to maintain? Because really the touchdowns is what gets him there, is that RB8, like you said, it's those touchdowns. When you have other guys stepping up, if Josh Allen's going to throw the ball a little bit more, then we may see that regression come in. My big thing too here, Kendall, is McDermott said that, he'll be here when he's ready and when we move forward. So that in some ways I'm like, okay, you're going to move forward. It's just, where do you meet? Where do you see eye to eye? Right. But my question here is, what about Ray Davis? Is he going to get a bigger shot, a bigger piece of the pie here? Last year, he had 113 rushing attempts, 442 yards, not many touchdowns, right? 3 touchdowns, but maybe he takes a step up and maybe he's a late round flyer to go for.
I think that's a great call out, because like with Ray Davis, if you don't get James Cook's expensive, by the way, like this, and we kind of already knew that he was going to be expensive, but you mentioned the touchdown rate. Like he scored on 7. He had a 7.7% touchdown rate, which again is one of those things like how we talked about Baker Mayfield. It's very hard to sustain that. So you can expect like touchdown regression there. And then, for Ray Davis, like I'm looking at an RB14 price tag right now for James Cook. And so if you miss out on that, and we talk about handcuffs and how valuable they are, we saw them, kind of steer over to Ray Davis a little bit. Not saying that he's going to take over everything and take over the workload for James Cook, but there is a scenario where the regression comes. We never want injuries, but you always want to be able to plan for that. So if you're telling me, you don't get James Cook and you can wait around later in your draft and still get someone in this offense that does have a chance to, maybe shine a little bit more in 2025, I'd believe you. He's going RB 46, Amanda. So it's not like you're spending a lot on Ray Davis either. I like that. I like that call out.
All right. You ready to switch positions here? Because somebody else didn't show up, Kendall.
Oh man, are we just not showing? Did we not get the memo, Amanda? Were we not supposed to show up? What's going on?
Look,
what are we doing?
Maybe you haven't heard, but did you hear that Kirk Cousins also hasn't shown up to OTAs? Which, look, this is the most interesting one to me, Kendall, because there's so much like meat and girth to this one. Kirk Cousins, he's signed to the Atlanta Falcons. There's rumors that he might get traded to the Steelers, but his contract is a disaster. Like when you look at what would happen if he did get traded, I don't know why the Steelers would want to take that on. They would take in, I think, roughly $40 million cap hit. They'd be stuck with a guy who his production really has gone down the last 2 years. His last season with Minnesota and the first with the Falcons wasn't great. And so what are you signing up for? The Falcons want to keep this guy as a backup to Michael Penix Jr. Why wouldn't they? Especially if they have to take on all this money anyways. Keep him as a backup. He's probably one of the better ones in the league at this point. But I don't know. Do you think he's going to get traded to the Steelers? Do you think he's going to hold out long enough to make something happen?
That's the thing. It's like, are the Falcons going to actually budge? And I don't know. They've been pretty firm in their decision. Like they've been pretty firm in all their decisions with Kirk Cousins and being very vocal again about being like, no, he's going to stay with this team. Because earlier this year, I remember Kirk asking, and he was granted a meeting with their owner, Arthur Blank. So he asked to be released already before. So they kind of know where his head is at. And they said no, like they are not comfortable letting him walk away. And the contract is the biggest thing, Amanda. When we look through this contract, it is tough. They'd be paying Cousins his guaranteed $27.5 million in 2025, even if he were released. Now, I know that June 1st is a big date as well. Like the post June 1 cuts and trades are a little bit different. So they can also save $27.5 million by trading him after June 1, and that's coming up here in just a couple of days. So pre-June 1, they would have only netted like $2.5 million in savings. So there's still a part of me that believes that maybe, if Kirk isn't showing up, that maybe they just look and say, look, Michael Penix is our future, kind of using him and, like getting a same situation as Sam Darnold, it almost makes me feel like they believe so much in Michael Penix that they could just say, Kirk, we don't really need you. Just the same thing with JJ McCarthy, where they say, hey, we don't need you, Sam Darnold. We've got JJ and we're kind of okay with it. But I don't know, Amanda, would you rather have Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers? Like, if you were the Steelers looking at this situation, who would you rather go after?
See, that's exactly why this one to me is so tricky, because the Steelers are literally stuck between a rock and a hard place, because you have Aaron Rodgers, who's pretty much not committed to anything at this point and making them wait, where they could have drafted a quarterback. And I feel like there's probably whispers and they thought that something was going to work out, and it hasn't yet. So they're kind of sitting there in this weird situation with Mason Rudolph. Kirk Cousins, they have to take on a huge part of his contract that is not going to be fun or worth it, because they even, I think, have to pay another $10 million in a roster bonus in 2026 if they would trade him. And so at this point, it's really going to come down to those two. And as far as production, I think Aaron Rodgers would play better. I mean, let's look at Kirk Cousins real quick. 2015 to 2022, Kendall, he was throwing 30 touchdowns on average, 4,000 yards a season, even as high as 35 touchdowns a year. But then the last two was 18 touchdowns each. And he threw his career most interceptions last year, 16 interceptions. So the production isn't there for Kirk Cousins, though I think that maybe he might be the better for the locker room quarterback. Maybe he won't bring as much drama, right? But production wise, I don't know. Can you pay a guy that much? I don't think you can. So he's probably going to be the backup in Atlanta. He's going to have to be with that kind of contract.
He was bad too. Like, I kind of forget how bad Kirk Cousins was for the Falcons before they benched him. And we're going to be talking more in the coming months about Michael Penix and what can happen there. But he really did. It just looked bad. And I was kind of more optimistic on Kirk, thinking that he would be able to come back from his injury. He's in a new offense, new head coach, all this stuff where it would work out. But he did not look good. But it's like you just said, do you want the drama but better play, or are you good with less drama but probably significantly worse quarterback play? And that's where they're at. And the Steelers right now, I can't believe, Amanda, in like days before June, still don't have a quarterback. So that's just shocking to me. And the last one here with, it really is just it blows my mind every time that we talk about it. But did you hear, so maybe the Falcons also don't have a tight end like that. Look at that transition.
Right.
Did you hear Kyle Pitts did not show up to OTAs, although he hasn't really shown up for many of the seasons anyway. So does this matter for you? What are we thinking here with Kyle Pitts?
I mean, look, maybe he's sitting there and he's like, I'm just like James Cook here. It's my last year of my rookie contract. Yeah, I deserve to get paid too. Let's re-sign me. But what are you talking about? Like, you look at the numbers here, he doesn't have the leverage that other players have when they do this sitting out phase, where he's had, I think, 2 top 5 tight end fantasy finishes last year, only 1 in 2023, only 1 in 2022. Look, he's supposed to get paid, I think, roughly 10, 11 million this year in 2025. Okay. And at this point, how is he going to get paid more than that? If he's sitting out, what is he going to do, Kendall?
He can't. There's no chance. I will say, sorry for the Kyle. I don't know why I came in so hot with Kyle Pitts. I apologize, Kyle. That was just so, I do apologize for that. But I will say, like, he did not attend OTAs, but it looks like, looking further into it, that he was at the team facility, but he's already coming back it looks like he's working back from a foot injury, Amanda. So all this to say, if you're someone that's listening and it's just like, yes, I'm still, this has to be the year for Kyle Pitts. Just know he's already got a foot injury it looks like multiple reports. He's still only 24 years old, Amanda, though. Like, that's the crazier part, is that he got us in the first year, right? That rookie season was so good. And ever since, we say, well, he has to be able to come back to that, right? Wrong.
Look,
are you
I think the foot all?
No.
The foot injury is cold feet. He's nervous to play. And look, Fantasy Life has him ranked as their tight end 18, right next to Tyler Warren. I'm taking Tyler Warren, the guy who has a terrible quarterback, 2 potentially terrible quarterbacks, but like a chance. You know what I mean? And maybe it bites us just like Kyle Pitts all over again, but I'd rather start fresh. Just pull the Band-Aid off. Stop leaning towards Kyle Pitts, guys.
Tyler Warren, tight end 18 seems wow. That's like, wow.
Colts.
That's okay.
Colts,
yeah. The Colts, Anthony Richardson. So I guess that's interesting. We'll have to talk about that a little bit more. All right. So as always, again, sorry, Kyle Pitts. It was a little bit much, but that's just how disappointed we are in you as fantasy football managers. All right. That was Did You Hear, presented by Bud Light. All right, fantasy football fans, sure, NFL season may be long over, but next season's action is already well underway. We're talking big trades, new signings, draft order shuffles, you name it. And all this preseason NFL action is easier to enjoy with the official beer of the NFL. So get Bud Light delivered today and enjoy every season projection, every player trade, every coaching change and draft pick with the clean, crisp taste of Bud Light, the official beer of the NFL. Stock up now for the offseason and enjoy Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Moving right along here, we have to go over to the coach and player speak translator, Amanda. And I'm excited for this one because we have quotes from coaches and some players sprinkled into this quarter. We're at the second quarter now, by the way. And we're gonna read these quotes and then we're gonna actually say what they mean, what we think they mean. They said this, but they actually meant this. I want to start and give you this one because I'm curious what you think Jordan Love was saying here. So Jordan Love said he was excited to work with, quote, stud Matthew Golden, says, quote, the speed speaks for itself. He said, he's a great dude. The start we've had doing routes on air and things like that. He looks like a stud, looks very polished, like a very polished receiver. I'm excited to see how far he can take it. What did he actually say?
I think he's kind of saying like, hey guys, I sat back to Aaron Rodgers for years. Give me a guy that's not going to get hurt or that's not going to, they've been spreading the ball around in Green Bay, Kendall, for years now. And we haven't seen like the Jordy Nelsons or like the Randall Cobb kind of true wide receiver one in a while. And I think Jordan Love is itching for that guy because he had spurts last season where he looked great when he wasn't injured. And so I think Jordan Love can make something of himself. We just need the guy. Look, I'll tell you this, Kendall, we talked about Jayden Reed last week or 2 weeks ago. He had 55 catches in 2024. Tucker Kraft, the tight end, had 50. He had 5 less. Like, who's the standout guy? We need somebody to really step up here. 4 players in Green Bay had 600 receiving yards in 2024. Yeah. So they're spread. It's almost like kind of that Buffalo Bills as of late, where they're spreading the ball out, but they need somebody that can really truly step up. I hope Matthew Golden is the guy. Do you feel like he can be the guy, Kendall?
Yeah. Hey, I'm with you. I think Jordan Love is telling us, not only Matthew Golden, he's a stud, the speed speaks for itself. I think he's telling fantasy managers, pick Matthew Golden ahead of Jayden Reed. You should be drafting him ahead of Jayden Reed. I think that, he didn't say it, but we're reading between the lines here with Jordan Love. And that it is the interesting part because I do believe that I haven't looked recently, but Matthew Golden has been going ahead of Jayden Reed in underdog drafts right now. And we kind of know that in underdog, those wide receivers are pushed up pretty early, so they go pretty quickly. But I don't know, he could be that big play element that the Packers need and want. It doesn't look like, they've got injuries from last season, unfortunately, and it's just one of those things where he can step in and have an immediate role. Now it's just managers sitting back and saying, do I want a piece of this offense that, like you said, Amanda, always spreads the ball around? I believe that Jordan Love is going to have like a pretty good bounce back season. Last year was just a little bit rough for him, and he went down with an injury so early. I think it was the Brazil game. I think it was like one of if not the first games of the season. So having to deal with that the whole year. Our projections at Fantasy Life have Matthew Golden 88 targets, 57 receptions, around just a little under 800 receiving yards, and then 5 touchdowns. But if they do believe, and they put a lot of draft capital in him, being the first receiver that they drafted in the first round since 2002, I think they're going to utilize him. So to me, Jordan Love is telling us draft Matthew Golden instead. And if you want a receiver, draft him ahead of Jayden Reed. That's what I think.
I love it. Look, I'm already higher on Tucker Kraft at this point because I think he's one of those, he is like a steady point in that offense. So if he continues to have 50 catches or so, but they need the stud. And I don't, we talked about this. I feel terrible that Jayden Reed's agent was called to say like, hey, he's still the wide receiver one. Don't you worry. That to me is the biggest red flag. And so, yeah, I'm in on Matthew Golden. I like your translation. I'm taking him before Jayden Reed. Lock it in.
Love it. All right, let's go. You want to go? Let's go Sam Laporta. Little Sammy P, Sam Laporta. All right, this one was actually interesting because I went back and forth on what maybe Sam Laporta was saying here, but he was asked by the smaller year 2 stat line that he had, and he had a quote that said, "There were a lot of weapons last year, so I kept hearing comments this offseason. Why didn't you go get the ball as much?" And then he said, "We scored the most points of any team in the NFL in the last 5 years. Everybody deserves the ball." Amanda, what he said that, but what did he mean?
He's saying, I want a Super Bowl. I don't care at this point if I'm the one that's catching the ball, as long as we have someone doing it. The Lions have turned it around, Kendall. I feel like sometimes we get this recency bias, but you look at 2021, they had 3 wins in 2021. Like, here I am getting nauseated thinking about the Saints with their, 5 wins last year, 3 wins in 2021, and they had 14-2 in 2024. So they have turned it around entirely here. This offense is just firing on all cylinders, but at the same time, it's because they have so many weapons at every point of the field. Like, you have the 2 running backs that are going to do something dangerous, but then you have Jamison Williams, who stepped up entirely in the last 2 seasons. And it's going to take away targets from Sam Laporta. It's going to take away those end zone targets. And I'm okay with it too, because I want to see the Lions get a ring. So I think that's how I'm interpreting it, is he's like, look, it's not all about me and the stat line. It's about the Super Bowl, and I want to win. That's how I read it.
I agree. I love that one. I had no fantasy takeaway from this other than this is still, but it's still a high powered offense. So you weren't, Sam Laporta, sure, you can look at it. His stats though, 86 catches, 889 yards. That was his rookie season. Sorry. And then 60 catches, 726 yards, 7 touchdowns. You're still okay with it, right? You're good. And so for when we look at tight end rankings, especially, and just tight end tiers in general, those tight ends tend to fall off very quickly. So Sam Laporta, you're still going back to him, and you still want a piece of the high-powered offense. That's the other part that I kind of read into as well. Like Jamison, you're going to want a piece of Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, both of the running backs, Jared Goff to a certain extent as well. I know some people might look at this with Ben Johnson leaving and say, oh, Ben Johnson was the reason for their magic. He was the reason that they were so good. And while there is a little bit of truth to that, I just can't, Amanda, look at this team and say, because Ben Johnson's gone, they're going to fall off. There's no chance. I think we believe in Dan Campbell a little bit too much there, and we believe in all the weapons that they have as well. So I'm with Sam Laporta, where they're probably going to continue, what they've been doing. But our projections, Amanda, aren't bad for Sam Laporta either for this year. 775 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns. So compare those to the stats from last season. You're still
roughly
okay with
the
it.
same. Right. And look, he still ranked 6th at the position in yards last year, even with the dip. He's still tied 4th at the position for touchdowns. And look, the biggest shift that he had from 23 to 24 was his targets. He had 120 targets in 2023 that dropped pretty drastically to 83 in 2024, but he only scored 3 less touchdowns and he only had 100 less yards. His production was still extremely good and he had less opportunities. So I don't see it as this thing to kind of be afraid of. I'm still going to draft him, but anything, I really just take it as we just want to win the game. However we get it done, we want to get to a Super Bowl, and I really hope the Lions can do it.
They have to be America's team by now, right? Don't you think? I went back and forth with Adam on that. I'm like, Adam, it's not the Cowboys anymore. I think it is the Lions as America's team.
The Lions.
Just gonna throw that out there. Sorry, Cowboys fans. I just didn't mean to stir you up here. All right, what did this quote mean? I'm looking at this one, and this is about JJ McCarthy, and this was an interview via the team website. But gravitational pull as a leader. That's what their co-owner and president Mark Wilf said. So he has gravitational pull as a leader. The talent is there. Kevin O'Connell is glowing in his praises of how he's handled everything from an off-field perspective. We couldn't be happier. What are they actually saying about JJ McCarthy?
I think what they're saying, Kendall, is that they have been subscribing to Fantasy Life and they've been reading all of Thor's articles and following him on Twitter, because if anybody here knows Thor, he is all in on JJ McCarthy. He is the train, pushing the hype train. But it makes sense, Kendall, at this point. Look what they've done. They've had some interesting, albeit quarterbacks over the last few seasons, and they've still managed to have Justin Jefferson be at the top of the charts. And now you have this guy coming in who, by the way, JJ McCarthy himself has said that kind of having this year of injury, he's come back bigger, faster, stronger, and smarter in year 2. And the coaches support those statements by saying, like, look, he was really digging deep into our playbook. He knows the offense backwards and forwards, and that he's been one of those guys that spent his time not just healing, but doing everything he needs mentally. I've not heard a negative word on this guy all off season, Kendall, even last season. So it's one of those where I'm like, is the hype real? Am I getting myself too excited? But I feel like if it's coming from all directions, it's got to, I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. It's got to be real. You know, this guy could be a gravitational pull. He really could. Like, I'm feeling the gravity pull me in, and I just want to draft him everywhere. So
it's happening right now. Like, as we speak, the poll is happening. I agree 100%, because my other part is that, yes, JJ McCarthy, he probably should be good, because again, to my point from earlier, they said, hey, we're fine with letting Sam Darnold go. We're fine with letting him walk. We're fine with not having him as a backup. My other part of this is that I trust Kevin O'Connell a lot. Like, we can't call Kevin O'Connell the quarterback whisperer and expect it not to work out for JJ McCarthy. Now, could there be some bumps in the road? Absolutely. He didn't get any reps last year. That was the unfortunate part, is that we actually didn't even get to see JJ McCarthy in his rookie season. So he's starting off the sophomore year, and people are like, the sophomore slump. Like, I don't know, he didn't get any reps last season. So there could be some bumps in the road. And I think that's something that we kind of have to prepare for. But he's one of my favorite quarterbacks, Amanda. He's off the board QB 20 on Underdog. And so if you're waiting around, if you get Justin Jefferson, you know, as one of your first picks, if you go ahead and get a Jordan Addison, a TJ Hawkinson, like, he's just one of my favorite guys to say, you know what, I can wait. I don't want him to be my only quarterback or my first quarterback necessarily, but he's someone that you can stack so late with that QB 20 price tag that I'm like, okay, if this works out, I feel like he could outperform that ADP that he's at right now. Once he gets closer to, you know, if he jumps into the QB 15 conversation, if we get him down closer to that range, then it's a little bit too risky for me. But at QB 20 off the board, like, I'm kind of okay with it. And again, I believe in Kevin O'Connell, and he's got Justin Jefferson. What are we doing? He's got someone that's going to make him look great.
Yeah, get him now before the preseason. It's going to take one just bomb that he throws perfectly, and then, the ADP shot after that.
Has to. All right, before we continue on here, and we're going to go through some wide receiver rankings, we're going to hear from our friends over at Bud Light.
Check out the new whip.
Tight.
Fully custom.
How many Bud Lights can you fit in that puppy?
As many Bud Lights as it takes.
It's a lot of Bud Lights. You'll have to give me one of those.
Going through wide receiver rankings here from yours truly, by the way. We've got all of our rankings live at fantasylife.com, so you can go and check them out. But Amanda, doing rankings this season, it's been fun. It's been stressful already, and it's only May, so I can only imagine how much more stressful it's going to get. But I wrote an article for the website, fantasylife.com. You can check out my top 12, and I compared them to consensus. So it was a really fun process. But the one player, at least at the beginning, that I knew I was a little bit higher on than most was Brian Thomas Jr. So I have Brian Thomas Jr. I have Brian Thomas Jr. ranked wide receiver 4, wide receiver 7 consensus at fantasylife.com. And my thing, Amanda, and again, we're months down the line. This can change a lot in the next few months. But in my original pass, I just kind of looked at some other players and I said to myself, Brian Thomas Jr.'s environment, his situation, it almost all got better for him going into 2025, right? He should have a healthier Trevor Lawrence coming back. He's got, you know, a new head coach in Liam Cohen that is coming off a great run with Tampa Bay and Baker Mayfield and what he was able to see there. I'm not necessarily worried about Travis Hunter. If we get more news down the line that they're going to play him more primarily on offense, then yeah, I might get a little bit more worried about that. But right now, I'm not thinking that he's going to take away a ton of targets. So I just look at what Brian Thomas Jr. was able to do last season and what he was able to pull off. You can see some of the stats on the screen now. Like I said, my wide receiver 4, wide receiver 7 consensus, finished overall wide receiver 11 in fantasy points per game. And we've got our projections with a wide receiver 7 finish. But I do think he gives us the opportunity. He could finish as the wide receiver 1 this season. And I think that's what you look at in the top 4 guys when you're ranking, is who could give you that overall wide receiver 1 finish. And I don't know, to me, he could do it.
Oh, when I saw this, because I was looking through, like you said, you were comparing your own rankings to consensus, and I'm like, okay, let's see what the argument is here for Brian Thomas Jr. But look, he kind of did some of these statistics. He met some of this already in 2023, Kendall. Like, I'm all in because he was third in yards in 2023, and guess who he was behind? Only Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. And then he was tied sixth for touchdowns in 2023. And guess what? He was tied with Justin Jefferson and T. Higgins. So it's like he is already in the mix with these elite guys. He's one that can kind of burn half the field. You know, his long catches are 60, 50, 70 yards. He started off a little slow last season, but really after December hit, he started seeing double-digit targets every single week, hitting 100-yard games most of those weeks. It's kind of like he was unlocked at that point. So I'm with you. I don't see a problem on those who are higher on him than consensus, given, like you said, the ceiling is absolutely ripe for the picking, and he could, even if he had just the same year as last year, you know what I mean? Like, that's still very viable. So I like it. Wide receiver 4, it's kind of one of those, like, go get your guys. Maybe people won't get him that early, but I hope you can get him, and it makes me want to draft more of them, Kendall.
It's like, you know, it's the three there are, you know, Brian Thomas Jr., people might like Malik Neighbors ahead of him. People might like Puka Nacua ahead of him, but that's what rankings are for. It's just opinions based on the rankers that you look at. So you guys, if you're feeling that way, you know, change them up. You don't have to follow that, but that's kind of where I'm at heading into 2025. The same thing with T. Higgins as well. It's again, not too much of a difference, but wide receiver 12, he did make my top 12 compared to wide receiver 14 consensus at fantasylife.com. And I looked at T. Higgins and I said, I'm super happy that he was able to finally, you know, get the contract done, that he was able to stay with the Cincinnati Bengals. I think them doing that was phenomenal because they know that their Super Bowl window is still open. It's still there. You have Jamar Chase, you have T. Higgins now, you have Joe Burrow. So you have these offensive weapons that were able to perform last season. The only thing with T. Higgins too is that, you know, he is the wide receiver 2 on his own team. So you're banking on Joe Burrow still being elite. And I still think Joe Burrow is going to be elite. T. Higgins also has to stay healthy. That's the other thing that makes some drafters a little bit nervous. He has played in 12 games in each of the last 2 seasons. Several of those injuries are soft tissue. For last year, Amanda, I almost look at that and I say he was being very cautious with his injuries because he did not have his contract. So to me, I looked at that and said, okay, if he didn't feel very good, you know, before a game or a couple days before, he wasn't going to play because he didn't want to risk getting injured before getting his contract. But you can see the numbers on the screen right now. Projected fantasy points, 195.5. Projected fantasy finish, wide receiver 14. I think he can outperform that ADP because also, Amanda, they tried to get better on the defensive side of the ball, but man, this defense was bad. No team had more total points scored and allowed than the Bengals last season. They lost 4 games last year while also scoring 33 plus points. So to me, this defense hasn't gotten truly 100% better. So they should have to be in these games for the long haul, which is something we like for fantasy because that means they're playing all the way down to the end in that final quarter. So that's good for me there as well. So T. Higgins, wide receiver 12. Do you like T? You like the Bengals offense? What do you think?
I do. Look, I was writing an article with like these kind of fun facts from 2024. And my number 3 question was, which wide receiver under 1,000 yards scored the most touchdowns in 2024? It was T. Higgins. And I was like, interesting. And that's with the injuries and all these other things. But even more than that, Kendall, the reason why I like this for what you said, like that wide receiver 12 aspect, is Joe Burrow is just one of those guys. I mean, he was 82 yards away from having a 5,000-yard season. Like, that's incredible. He was ranked first among quarterbacks in passing yards and in passing touchdowns, 43. So we talk about all these guys like Baker Mayfield who are wonderful fantasy assets, but Joe Burrow is not only an incredible fantasy asset, but now he has Jamar Chase and T. Higgins locked in. Like you said, with that contract, maybe T's a little more like gonna punch it in if he's got a little sore knee, right? He'll go in because they're trying to get this Super Bowl. So I have no problem with it at all. I'm really excited for the Bengals this year.
Mike Evans was another one, Amanda, where I was really close. I said to myself, it's Mike Evans, wide receiver. He was so close to cracking the top 12, but he came close enough, right? Wide receiver 14, or no, wide receiver 12 for me. No, wide receiver 14 for me. And then wide receiver 17 consensus in the rankings. So when I looked at Mike Evans, again, it was this other thing where, yes, he's a year older. Yes, he's going to be in a contract season, but Amanda, what are we doing? Like, he is the 1,000-yard guy. He's like so dependable on what he's able to bring to you. And so for me, if we're giving Baker Mayfield the respect that he deserves, we have to continue giving it to Mike Evans. Like, even though he's coming off an injury last season, he was still able to come back instead of, Chris Godwin, who unfortunately missed the rest of the year. So yes, injuries, the age cliff, he's getting older, sure. But I am just one that's going to go back in on Mike Evans because I really want a piece of this offense from Tampa Bay. I think Baker Mayfield, even with some expected regression, is still going to be good, and his favorite target is going to be Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, of course. But just for me, wide receiver 9 last season, even though he missed 3 games, he averaged 14.5 PPR points per game, fantasy points per game. He has the target. He's got everything there. So I just couldn't look at Mike Evans and put him outside my top 15. I could not do it.
No, and look, it's kind of like the Derrick Henry effect. Like, until he shows us that he can't do it, why are we going to keep fading him? Because I feel like we're on year 5 now of saying like, oh, this is probably the last year for Mike Evans, and it never is. So until he gives us a reason, let's respect him. And look, Kendall, I don't know if you know this, but in 2025, he has like a bonus of $3 million if he gets 70 catches, 1,000 yards, and 10 touchdowns. And there's only been 2 years in his career that he didn't hit 70 catches, and he was at 68 and 67. There's 0 years where he didn't hit 1,000 yards, and half of the time he's hitting those 10 touchdowns. So, I mean, he's been extremely consistent across his entire career. Until he gives us a reason, I can't fade him. I really can't. And like you said, Baker, I mean, he's just looking incredible in Tampa Bay. So there's something going on there where I don't see it dropping. I don't.
Exactly. And like the other thing is the offensive coordinators. I know people again are going to look and say, well, Liam Cohen's gone, but I don't know what more Baker Mayfield has to do to prove that he's okay with the offensive coordinator turnovers, because they've gone through this before. So again, yes, we are going to expect regression because he had so many touchdowns last season. Like it was all amazing for Baker, but even with regression, like Mike Evans is still going to be someone that you desperately want on your fantasy teams. Someone that I'm actually a little bit lower, I'm not in on Tyreek Hill as much, a little bit lower, wide receiver 15 for me. He's our consensus wide receiver 12. And so I had to look in the mirror, Amanda, and say, maybe it's me. And I don't know if necessarily it's a Tyreek Hill conversation or if it's a unfortunate Tua Tagovailoa conversation and just more not necessarily believing in his quarterback. Because to me, the Dolphins Super Bowl window is closed. The reasoning behind this is that I still am holding out just for a little bit longer. I know that he's come out and he's had a lot of quotes recently saying that he wants to be a leader for this team and all this other stuff. But if we talk about money, like, I'm still waiting and making sure that he's not traded before the 2025 season starts. That's the other part of this where I do think that maybe they've shut it down and maybe I just need to, come to terms with that, Amanda. But looking at some of the money, even though he's set to return, they would save close to $15 million by trading Tyreek Hill after June 1st. If they were going to do it beforehand for these last couple of months previously, they would have, I think, lost $600,000 by trading him. So one part of me is thinking maybe he still gets traded. Maybe they look at this situation and say, yeah, we can't necessarily win a Super Bowl with this team. And then Tyreek Hill, it was 121 targets in 2024. It was the fewest since joining the Dolphins. And they really, they looked at Jonnu Smith, they looked at Achane and said, we're gonna focus on them with Tua Tagovailoa gone. So again, this might be the guy that I actually change going forward, where I could see myself saying, well, it's still Tyreek Hill. He's still going to get the targets. He's still just one of those elite receivers. But for right now, I'm looking at wide receiver 15 because I'm just a little bit too nervous to rank him ahead of anyone else.
And look, Kendall, this is why I don't do rankings, because I would have him so much lower. And here's why. It's not just the Miami situation. He doesn't want to be there. Every week it switches. I know that recently he said, most recently he said, I got to prove myself, at training camp, at OTAs. I got to show up different. The mindset's got to be different. But then he goes on a live stream, somebody jokingly tells him that he got traded and he starts celebrating and says, let's go. He doesn't want to be there. Remember, he didn't finish out that Jets game. He said that he was really upset after they didn't make the playoffs and he was out of there and he has to do what's best for him. And so the week to week flip-flopping on that, if he stays in Miami, I'm extremely nervous with he could walk off if he has a bad game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm very nervous. So I support you being lower than consensus.
Yes.
And again, that's why I don't do it, because I would be even lower.
Yeah, I was looking at him and I'm like, oh, it's still Tyreek Hill. But remember the post game after their last game for 2024, and he was like, I'm out. I can't keep doing this. Like he was frustrated. And so I do believe that things can get better. They can repair that throughout the offseason. But I'm just waiting. I'm still not. It's only May. I'm still waiting to see if maybe there's a move made there with Tyreek Hill. And then if he goes somewhere else where he's the alpha, then I probably, maybe a new situation. I might put him a little bit higher there. But those are my rankings. Again, you guys can go and check those out. FantasyLife.com. I would love if you guys went and did that. Let me know any of your thoughts or comments as well. We're going to continue on, Amanda, because we are professionals and we're going into the fourth quarter. We mentioned at the beginning, we're in a dynasty league now together. We got our dynasty startup draft going right now. So quarter 4 is going to be 7 things you don't say to your commissioner. I know you've written about a lot of this stuff before, so I'm letting you take the lead on this one.
And really, this was like, look, life imitates art, guys. We're in this group chat with Fantasy Life, Dynasty League, and Producer Swing is the commissioner. And some things have come up that bubbled up. And I'm remembering old leagues that fell apart from the things that have been said to commissioners. Kendall, the first thing you should never tell a commissioner, and I've heard it all too often, is you take this commissioner stuff way too seriously. And the reason that I don't like that is because if you think that it's easy to run a fantasy league, it's probably because your commissioner is doing a fantastic job at taking things seriously, like allegations of cheating and collusion, collecting people's money, keeping the group happy whenever things go wrong so that people don't quit and you can keep everyone together. When rules need to change, keeping the pace up, keeping the peace, like all of it, you have to take it seriously. Otherwise it falls apart. Kendall, I don't know if you've been in leagues that have fallen apart, but it doesn't take much whenever people's money's on the line. They get very sour very quickly. And so, yes, like bad commissioners do exist. I've seen that as well, but more often than not, you much prefer the serious guy.
I love the call out too that you said. Like you said, hey, if you think it's easy, it's probably because they're doing a good job. That's the highlight there too, Amanda. It's like, yeah, if you're thinking to yourself, I could be a commissioner. It's so easy. Look at how well my league is run. Yeah, you got to shout out your commissioner there. You know, give him a little extra thank yous after seasons like that. So I like that call out.
Yeah, and I mean, if anybody's ever been a commissioner, they know. All right.
They know.
Another thing, Kendall, that you should never tell your commissioner is, wait, hold on. You didn't tell us that. You didn't let us know that was that rule that we're going to be doing. You didn't tell us that we're going to have a 3rd round reversal in the draft. But look, they probably did tell you. And you probably either didn't read. I mean, like we have commissioners that take it so serious. They have bylaws and charters and rule books and everything's written down publicly. And it feels sometimes like, whoa, are we like going to court? Why do we need all of this? But it's exactly for that reason. So you can't say you weren't told. And also, Kendall, I know a lot of people that like delete their fantasy football apps in the off season. I don't know why you would do that, but some people do, or they kind of ghost the group chat and they miss all the major announcements. So I'm sorry, that's not on the commissioner. That's on you. Like you got to keep up. You got to keep up.
That just happened to us. I will say, hand up. I was one of them, just to really stir the pot, because poor producer Swing is now our commissioner, and I'm sure he absolutely hates that. And we're like 5 days in, maybe, like we're not even that far in it, and he probably hates his life. But he did send out a charter, and then I was one of those people where I was like, I don't want to read all that. Not right now. I'll skim it. I was like, I'll just skim it. What could I miss? What did I miss, Amanda? A 3rd round reversal rule. Not just me, but others. So I will say, hand up. I was someone that did that, but yeah, you can't bring it up, because then you know what they do? They send you the document and they say, oh, it's right here. And then you just have to sit back and say, oh, yikes, I missed that. I like that.
See, Kendall, the difference between you and me is I also did not read it, but whenever I found out, I was just like, oh, okay.
You accepted it. I pushed back. That's what makes us different. You were like, okay, I missed that. And I was like, no, it's your fault. Wrong.
Oh, but look, we love our commissioner. Another one. This is another one. These are all from like real experiences I've had and leagues that have had trouble. Another one is like someone saying, "Oh, come on, I'm not good at remembering to set my lineup," and they laugh about it. I have literally like heard people. We were at dinner with a league, Kendall, and the person that we were debating in the group chat on the side, kicking out because they weren't setting their lineup at dinner, was like, "Can you believe this guy's been giving me like hell for not setting my lineup?" And we're all just like, "Yeah, we can. It's the bare minimum. It's the only thing that we like really truly hope you do. We can't force you to set waivers. We can't force you to be competitive, but like at least set your lineup." And to laugh at it really, I think, is like the knife, of to think that we don't all take it seriously. It's too much.
That would send me over the edge, actually. I've had, things happen where people do, something comes up and they forget to set their lineups and they're like, "Hey, commissioner wise," but it's a thing that you have to bring to the whole group if it's not in your roles, because that is something that can happen to people. But if they're just intentionally like, "Oh, I'm not good at it, so I'm not going to do it, but it's going to be fine," that would send me over the edge.
And patterns of behavior, it's kind of like these fantasy players, like three is a pattern. We have to look at these. All right. We have league mate statistics. Okay. Another one that really burns me, Kendall, and I guess I need to ask, we're very late into this. I consider you a friend, but this is actually really important. Are you team no veto? Do you think it's okay to veto a trade?
You know what? I'm going to be honest, and you're not going to like my answer. I am team no veto. I am.
Oh, no. Yeah. No veto. Okay, good. That's
no
me
veto.
too.
Okay.
No
okay.
veto.
I was thinking that maybe you were that way, but I'm team no veto, because to me, you need to, if you're vetoing, then you don't trust, then you don't have good people in your league, in my opinion.
That's it. And so look, that's the next one, Kendall, is you can't tell a commissioner that they have to stop a trade from going through. There is only one time that it's acceptable, and that's when there's proven cheating or collusion. That's it. Yeah. Because you value players differently. We literally just the quarter before this, you value people differently than consensus, right? Everybody has different rosters, Kendall, where these needs are different. If I don't have any running backs, I might value a Ray Davis much differently than somebody who has Derrick Henry. And so you can't decide from your perspective if a trade is lopsided or not. So I just think you put a commissioner in a very bad spot if you're telling them that they have to stop a trade just because you think it's unfair. And I've heard the people calling up their league mates saying, "Hey, come on, you have to all call him and let him know it's not okay." But that's a big no-no for me. So yeah, team no veto.
We've had those calls on SiriusXM before, and there have been, because like you said, Amanda, there are exceptions to that rule, because we've had people call in and be like, "Is this like legit? Should this be happening?" And Adam and I have been like, "No, what are your Pete?" I remember Pete and I having to do one. Shout out to Sandy. That call was 2 years ago, and I still think about it, because we were like, "No, that's not fair. Actually, you should veto that." So there are exceptions to that rule, but in my mind, you should be playing with really good people that you trust. And like you said, values are so different. You can see my rankings. Like I would trade a lot to get a Brian Thomas Jr. on my team, and some other people might not do that, but to me, he's worth it. So that's where you have to like kind of draw the line a little bit.
Exactly. And we have a friend in my home league that thinks every offseason, he thinks he has the insider scoop on the Packers. And he's always been wrong, but every year he's certain of it. And so he's going to value, Green Bay players a lot differently than any of us. It's not cheating.
Of course.
All right. You ready for the next one? These are going to get logistical here. Like when you win, Kendall, don't tell the commissioner to hold on to your winnings for next year. Like he's not your financial advisor or your bank. You know what I mean? Like when you know how typically if you win third place, you'll get your money back. There's been people in the past that are like, "Hey, just hold on to it for next year so I don't have to pay for it." But now your commissioner has to keep track of what you did or didn't pay. And what I've really seen, the real reason I don't like this is the commissioner will pay you. And then you'll say, "Well, didn't I tell you to keep my money? I already paid." And so now there's this confusion that if there's just a blanket, nope, you pay out the winners. That is all there is to it. You never have those issues that come up later on.
That's crazy. That's happened to you before?
I've seen it happen. I have seen it happen.
Get your money and just move along. Put it, put it under the mattress, whatever you need to do so you don't spend it, I guess. I don't know what you need to do, but you're right. You're not the banker. Your commissioner isn't supposed to keep your money. You get it all out there and then you say, "All right, we're good to go." That's crazy that you've said that that's happened.
Yeah.
I can't even, I actually haven't even seen that one.
You're better
That's a
off
good
like
one.
putting $50 in the bank and getting what, like 5 cents in return, or you know what I mean? Dude, what are you doing having them hold on to that?
Go and do
It's
it.
crazy.
Go and do it. I love that. All right. So those are things you don't say to your commissioner. Hand up things that I have said. And I think we'll continue to say to Swing, because I believe that our job for the first year, Amanda, is to make his life as difficult as possible, so that he can reevaluate being commissioner. Don't you feel that that's, our duty right now?
Oh, especially in a dynasty league where he's committed for life. Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough out there. Sorry about it, but we had to let you know. All right, for like the first time in a couple weeks, maybe, I can't remember, but we've made it to overtime. So congratulations to us. Congratulations to our winners, our listeners and winners, I guess. But I will say this overtime is special, and we did not come up with this. Let me just throw that out there. But it was the anniversary of Harambe's death yesterday, Amanda. So it was 9 years since that whole thing went on. So why not name some of the things that we miss just a little bit more, but not too much more, a little bit more than Harambe. Do you want me to get started? Do you have your list? How do you want to do it?
Look, I have some football related, some not, but I'm going to go with, and this might be controversial, Kendall, I miss Blockbuster. I miss like
I have that on my list too.
Do you
Yes.
really? I miss like investing my time and looking with others. And when you pick your movie, that's it. You're not sitting through Netflix for 30 minutes scrolling and watching trailers. Like, you've made a commitment to this VHS or whatever DVD.
Yes.
And I miss the act of running around and kind of running up and saying, hey, this one or this one. And you have to decide then and there.
Yes.
I miss it so much.
I'm with you. See, we're the same. This is why we're co-hosts here, because we're the same person. I had Blockbuster written down too. And I remember like Blockbuster, and then there was another DVD store that whenever we would go, and it's a Friday, right? So you would sometimes see your friends there with their families, and you're like, oh my gosh, what are you guys watching tonight? And there was one in my childhood, like memory came back, where whenever we would go, they'd had this huge gumball machine. So that would be like our treat. We get a movie and a gumball. Oh, I love that. We're the same person here today. So I wrote that one. And then I also wrote McDonald's snack wraps. Do you remember the McDonald's snack wraps?
I never had one, Kendall.
I think they might be coming back, but I just miss the McDonald's snack wraps a little bit more than Harambe. I also I told you guys this before the show started, that McDonald's at one point sold Dippin' Dots at their stores, and I was really little when they did that, but I also miss that. But bring back the McDonald's snack wraps, because they were amazing. I loved them.
I feel like I must have blacked out during the Dippin' Dot era, because I don't remember them being at McDonald's at all. No memory of that.
They were. Kelsey told us they were, and then I said they were. So obviously it has to be true. But they were there for a short period of time where you can just walk up and say, I want the banana split Dippin' Dots are the best ones. So that's mine.
See, and we disagree. Banana's disgusting unless it is a banana.
What?
Moving on.
Oh,
okay. Kendall. I miss, and I'm realizing a theme here, but I miss burning like CDs for friends, where you would, are you old enough to remember when you would burn CDs?
Yes.
Okay. My age might be showing, but like that again, because you're committed to these 10, 20 songs that somebody picked out for you. You didn't have Sirius XM, sad times back then. You didn't have like all these options. You didn't have Amazon Music or Spotify just at your fingertips. And so somebody made you that mixtape, Kendall. There were songs you didn't know that you were going to know, because that was all you were listening to for the next week. Or maybe it was like, I don't know, I can't even give an example right now, but just the act of kind of like Blockbuster of like, I'm committed. This is my playlist for the week that somebody made for me, and I'm locked in. So I miss burning CDs.
But I don't miss giving my poor parents, by the way. Did you ever get viruses on your computer? Because we had, the family computer. And then it was like when I started to do that, because I'm the oldest, so I have a little brother, so he wasn't doing that. And then it's like, and then you got viruses. I would be like, oh my gosh, I can't tell them what's happening here. I was just trying to get some illegally downloaded music from YouTube, and then the family computer would crash. That would be the worst part about that whole experience, though.
And it was never like, it was never a song that was worth it. It's probably something by Casey and JoJo.
It's Kiss Me Through the Phone or whatever. Like, you don't need that. What are you doing? Oh my gosh. That's a really good one. I like that one. Now that you say that, And maybe I can just go get a Razor scooter as an adult, but don't you miss like some of the like games that we'd be able to, like a Razor scooter or the one that you jumped? I'm just throwing that one out there. Here's my last one, by the way. This is just like a rant. I miss Southwest having free bags. What, Amanda, what are we doing? You don't have free bags anymore? Why am I flying with you? This was just recently too, by the way. So I missed that just a little bit more than Harambe. What? Southwest, come on, bring back the free bags. I also just learned that happened. So it's tough times, Amanda. What are they doing?
Today. You're telling me now.
I'm telling you, they have no more free bags. What's going on? And
look,
they
before
have
they cut us
assigned
off,
seats coming. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Before they cut us off real quick, I missed the Drew Brees era. Okay.
Oh yeah.
No.
I think, yeah, I'm sorry. It's never coming back. It's never coming back. Oh man. Okay. Well, we appreciate everyone hanging out with us here today. Again, fantasylife.com. That's where you can go and check out all of those articles. Like I mentioned, my wide receiver rankings are right there. All of our rankings are live as well. And over there, you can go and subscribe to our newsletter, fantasylife.com. Again, that newsletter is in your inbox, 100% free, 7 days a week. For Amanda, for myself, Kendall Valenzuela here. We'll see you next time.